I see a countdown. I gotta get rid of that stupid. I want to put ads on the live show, which is just annoying. There we go. Hey, Robert. Yep, this is my new witch's hat. Just got it before Halloween. Angel says hello, happy late Samhain. Hi, Angel. Pokemon says hi, all. Hi, Pokemon. Ian says hello and welcome. Everybody was ready to jump right on. I like that. Like, yay. What is wrong with you? Carla says, hi, Siofra and Ian. How was your week? Love the hat. Thank you for the hat. And I think our week was pretty good. Hard to remember sometimes. Pokemon says, I'm watching and listening to the live stream. Yes, you are. Robert says, lots of talisman around your neck. Oh, you know, just the usual. Couple of pentagrams and a goddess. This is Sarasvati. And Pokemon says, happy holidays, everyone. Yes, thank you. Ian says, glad you could all be here now. Carla says, she is. Right, Teresa? Trinity says, hey, Siofra and Ian. Hi, hello. Trinity. Robert says, is it true there's two versions of the heptagram? I don't know. Maybe. Trinity says, love the hat, honey. I was a hit at the local costume parade at the mall. I went to that for my Samhain celebration this year. And the local photographer was taking pictures of the costumes he liked and asked me to come aside so he could take a picture of me because he really liked my staff. He called it a scepter. He thought it was quite fabulous, and of course it is. And then they gave me some candy, so that was sweet. Because I wasn't expecting to get candy, so.
Well, the heptagram is a term I haven't heard used before. It was basically a 7-point star.
Well, that's what I thought.
Heptagram.
Right. You know? And I don't know if there's two versions or not.
If you could figure out different ways to make it, I suppose you can. Barton points out that not only can it be, as far as symbolism goes, it's a 7-pointed star leading to 7 points. Of course, Venus or whatever, but Barton points out you can draw the same thing in a different schematic form. You can use a square around a triangle or a triangle and a square, depending on what you tend to signify or enter numerically. Of course, a square in a triangle would be a manifestation down of earthly aspects, that kind of thing. Or,
this our microphone sounds funny and our voices are distorted.
Well,
it's using the right one.
Yeah. Well, let me go run in.
Trinity says, yes, the sound is very off. It's our usual setup.
Is that the only one that's on? Make sure you're...
I did.
Only got the one microphone on?
Yep, I just looked. Only one microphone is on. The internal microphone is off. I can turn it off and turn it back. Maybe I should lower the volume. Does that help? Let me know. I lowered the volume a little bit. See if that helps. We sound like chipmunks. Wow. What happened to your voices? Are you speaking right now from another dimension? That could be pretty funny. Went to the Witches Bazaar today, says Carla, called Lunar Fest, and got a bunch of paintings for $5. Your voice is pretty funky right now. Sounds like the Munchkins, both of you.
Here, we'll do this
and I'll be able to hear this. And
Says the mic is going in and out. Hi, microphone issues. You sound like helium. Now it sounds okay. Okay, now it's normal. So I turned down my personal volume. It was at 100%. So sometimes that can give some feedback kind of stuff. Doesn't always though. So mainly Ian that sounded funny. Robert says Siofra got some tips to help get rid of fear of life as a witch practitioner. Okay, I'm gonna take off my hat. It's gonna make me warm. Just wanted to show it off. Fear of life as a witch. Interesting question. I don't know. I'm thinking seeing life as an adventure, and instead of, I can hear that. Okay, except, yeah, it's coming out through your computer.
Oh, is that what's?
Yes,
Oh, it's not going through.
we're having fun.
I had my headphones on, so I couldn't tell. All right, there.
Okay. All right, back to this. Yeah, I mean, people are mostly afraid of death, not so much afraid of life. But as a witch practitioner, the fear is often how other people are going to react to you when they find out that you're a witch. And that's about judgment and condemnation and their fear of you. And what they might do would be your fear of them, I think. And, you know, that's a hard one because people are unpredictable and a lot of them are really stupid. I mean, it was kind of funny in the mall when we were walking by, we went by a religious table and I thought, that's weird. There's a religious table at the Halloween in the mall. And this guy tried to give me some kind of scripture literature. And I just says, no, thank you. I'm a witch. And just kept on going. It's like, are you an idiot or what? Can't you tell by looking at me? But apparently, because it's Halloween, they didn't realize I really was a witch, which was the funniest thing, was that they liked my outfit because I was just being me. so that was good. But you just have to work with it and figure out what it is. What are the triggers that are giving you what's the fear exactly? Because you can have a fear of accomplishment and a fear of failure, a fear of exposure, a fear of no one ever seeing you. I mean, there's just so many different ways of doing that, and just working with it. That's the only thing you can do. Robert says, Carla, sounds like a good deal. That would be the pictures. Trinity says, how was your Samhain? And you're in, you are normal now.
Well,
Not
don't
really.
bet on it. I may sound normal.
I heard that coming. And so after we went to the mall and watched all the marvelous costumes that went by, which was just very entertaining and fun for us to do, before I went to bed, I played the Voices of Remembrance, the Roll Call of the Martyrs, which is the first time I've heard it on the recording, and I thought it was pretty interesting and mesmerizing and sort of hypnotic and powerful. So that's what I did. I just did some basic stuff for Samhain this year. I had a couple of days just before, actually and after, where I wasn't getting much sleep because my Kundalini was going crazy. And the first night it went crazy for a while, but then let me sleep, so that was nice. But I got into my intestines. I was making weird gurgling sounds. It sounded like I was a creature. But the next time it came up, it kept me awake for hours, and I finally gave up and got up. So you never know. Robert says, my Samhain was lonely and solitude eternal. Virgo Flowers says, greeting. Hi, Virgo Flowers. Erin says, hello. Hi, Erin. Carla says, Robert, all we did for Samhain, my kiddo and I, was light a candle, white and black, and listen to Siofra's roll call video she shared. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad it was used for other people, too. Brianna says, so the guy I was sort of dating tried to make me jealous by triangulating another woman, so I dumped him. Oh, I hate emotional blackmail and manipulation. Games.
Yeah.
Yeah, like any kind of Ian and I both, we cannot stand those kinds of relationship games or whatever that some people like to play. So good call. I'm sorry. Just as I really liked him, but I don't tolerate that behavior at all. Which is nice to know what your bottom lines are. You know, it's like we all have them. So Dan says, "Hi Siofra, I recently have been interested in incorporating bones in my spell work. Can you share your experiences in working with bones?" Um, well, I have bones in my magic. I haven't necessarily used them for spells though. I mean, I'm sure there's some spells that require them. I have like deer antlers. I have a bear tooth, which is a power object for me because it's one of my totem animals, the power animal, spirit animal, whatever we want to call them. Um, and and I have put skulls of different animals on an altar to honor the spirit of the animal or just death itself. Since bones, I usually put them on the earth altar if I'm going to use bones, but sometimes I have them in the east. Depends on what's going on. So I really don't have much in the way of direct experience in using them in spell work in particular. Um, but I think, animal bones, we found like seal vertebrae on the beach sometimes I've picked up. Yeah, they're just sort of representative of the end of things, sort of a state.
Yeah, I suppose if you wanted to do a lot of, earth magic of some sort, you could use that, and probably in a similar idea to petrified bones.
Yeah, you could
Some kind of
use
earth
the
magic or
bone to
something.
connect to the overall oversoul of the animal's spirit. Like for me, my experience with being involved with the death of an animal when I was trying to help heal a cow and they shot the cow and I left my body with the cow and discovered that there was this part in the astral that was just for cows, cow energy, and all this other stuff. So I think that bones could help you to connect to that animal oversoul area. I don't know what to call it exactly, but
Yeah,
that could be a
I'm
method.
sure actually, I recommend you look it up on, you get more of like a Native American shamanic perspective on it, and you'll probably find out a lot more. I'm sure there's a lot to bone stuff.
I
I
have a
don't
rattle
know,
that has
yeah,
like a deer antler handle, and
right.
um,
But I don't know anything
and I've seen
about,
people that have knives that have bone handles. My Athame actually has a, a a a goat horn as a handle carved into a cat, a black panther. So certainly different parts of animals have been used historically to make objects to work with. But I haven't like ground up bones to put them in a spell recipe or anything like that. So yeah. Robert says taking life as an adventure is a good idea. And Robert says, Dan, what kind of bones? Brianna says, and I found out he was a bit misogynistic and has issues with the divine feminine and feminine spirituality. I showed him a video of the orbs and me manipulating lights, photokinesis, show him what he was getting into. Always good to have full disclosure before it's too late. So Teresa says, for Samhain, I went outside after dark and held a mini ritual calling in the Kaliak and fed her hearth fire for the long winter ahead. I lit a bonfire in the middle of the circle I cast and banished a few things in her fire. It was really chilly, but I had my fleece cape and witch's hat on. It was nice. Sounds lovely. Norse Code says I missed my grandbaby's first Halloween in a different state, but I gave out candy to the kids in my neighborhood. I also dreamt of my mother on the Day of the Dead, but it was not a good dream. I'm sorry. Dan says, thanks for answering my question. You're welcome, Dan, as best we can. Brianna says he was Buddhist, but kind of a know-it-all, and if he ain't experiencing it, it doesn't exist. That's funny. So basically, he was trying to talk me out of my experiences and beliefs and just let me think whatever. And I just let him think whatever. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need someone who's going to dismiss you. when I was up north and I got the Spiral Dance, Starhawk's book, The Spiral Dance, the guy I was dating ish, as it were, at the time we were in a relationship, decided that he needed to read the book to make sure it wasn't dangerous for me. I was very annoyed. That ticked me off no end.
Well, okay.
I mean, seriously,
I'm not
I've had
surprised
an
that
entire
it-
life of men who think they're smarter than me trying to teach me a lesson they think I need to learn. And it's like, I really like to learn my own lessons. Thank you very much. If I make a mistake, they're my mistakes to make, and I learn from them. I don't need some guy like maneuvering my existence in order to prove a point. So, yeah, part of the game thing I don't like. But anyway, Robert says, for Halloween, I stared at the moon like a wolf for 2 straight hours and howled. Well, you've got another full moon coming up in a couple of days. It's going to be Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. my time. You can calculate what time it would be your time, and we're going to do the Amethyst Crystal Web on Tuesday night. I haven't decided what time yet. I'm going to look at when the sun sets, since they've just changed our time, and we might try to do it early, like at 6 or something, so that it's easier for people that live hours away from me to join in. Anyway. So Norse Code says, any advice on how to shoo my dead mother out of my dreams? She was not a nice person, and she passed 2 years ago on October 14th. Dreams are very stressful for me and stick with me for months.
By the way, it's cool that you've got a flag in there in Norse code. I don't know how you put that in there, but that's cool in the name.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep.
So, any advice? Okay, so in certain traditions, tribal traditions, where dreams are important to them, what they recommend is confronting the figure, whoever it might be, in your dream state, and banish them, basically. You have to find a way to be at least aware enough that you're dreaming to know that this is not something you want. And that will help your subconscious quite a bit to get rid of the imagery. You can sort of, I don't know, write a little saying or chant something short that you can memorize when you're awake and then say it in the dream. Try to program yourself to say it, because your subconscious will listen to this kind of stuff. And if you succeed, or when you succeed at doing that, it'll be a pretty powerful experience for you to realize how much control you can actually have over your own subconscious. Most people don't do that. They just let their subconscious run roughshod over them and do whatever it wants.
Very true.
And that's part of the shadow work, is to gain control over your own subconscious, to be aware of it, what it's doing, how it's trying to sabotage you, what are its concerns and so forth, and addressing them, and a way of taking your power back. So it sounds like it's that kind of a thing, where if you can confront her in the dream state, you'll be taking your power back from her, from what she did when she was alive and so forth, and not allow her memory or whatever it is to haunt you after her death. So it might take a while, but I would work on that. Brianna says, basically, the poor chap is emotionally immature and could not handle me. And since he couldn't control me spiritually, his last resort was trying to make me insecure with another woman. It backfired. Ah! Yeah. I guess that works on some people, but it doesn't work on us. Trinity says, my Athame is an alligator jawbone with my late mother's gemstone collection in the teeth holes as a reminder of her.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Cool. Brianna says, so that's the end of that. Well, at least you're, by doing this, you're defining what you liked about the relationship and what you didn't like about the relationship, and the universe is listening and learning what your criteria are, because it's presented you with something and figured, here, try this out, see what you think. And now you've let the universe know what you think of that particular offering, and you might get another few that are similar to that before you start moving into a completely new realm. So keep it up. So if we accept the first thing the universe has to offer, it's not always the right thing anyway. So taking care of yourself, that's important. Norse code said it was a nice moon at Robert. Robert says, indeed, Norse. I also invoke Odin very often. Norse code says very good. Very cool, excuse me, at Trinity. Robert says Odin, Freya, etc. Vikings, Kings. Robert says 17 watching the stream after 17 minutes. Good sign. Cool. Norse code says, oh, that's a brilliant idea. I have PTSD dreams, a lot, nightmares that repeat, some my entire life, and I'm 48. Now my mother is part of my nightmares. I get out my journal and get to work. Thanks. You're welcome. I know it can be frustrating to, have to continually deal with that kind of stuff, but it can get better. Robert says, when I was very young, I thought the location of my subconscious was the subway. That's a pretty good image, though. It's underground and only pops out here and there at different intersections with your life. I think that works well as an analogy for your subconscious. Norse code says, oh, I like that. There are good things about my mother, of course, but my goodness, she was an abusive person in life, and my trauma is still affecting me. Sleep deprivation makes me feel crazy. Yeah, and sleep is important. Absolutely, very important. There's no doubt about that. And you can also do rituals to try and get rid of that kind of stuff, like on the new moon especially is a good time. And this time of year is a good time to do those kind of rituals, to do confrontation, letting go, banishing, etc., to kind of clear out your own thought form clutter and whatnot and associations. And I found that ritual was the thing that really helped me with my complex PTSD, because most of the time I'm not triggered by much anymore, so this is good. And Norse code said, that's a brilliant imagery, Robert. Brianna says, yeah, I really liked him as a human. He was actually a very sweet person, and I liked who he was and care about him. But his insecurities and misogynistic programming ruined it for him. Robert says, thanks, Norse code. Yep. We're all a work in progress, and there's no doubt about it. And last week, people were asking about me posting, the Moida session that we did. And after thinking and thinking, I got 2 people who said it was okay. But after really thinking about it, I decided it's too personal an experience, even for the people who said it's okay to share it. So I don't feel right about sharing it in general at all. So sorry, guys. If you want to find out what she's like, you'll have to come to one, I guess, and we'll have to do another one at some point so that you can have a chance. Norse code says confrontation, banishing, boundaries, even in dreams. My mother had 0 boundary respect in life, and she needs to get with the program and have boundaries in the afterlife. Yeah. Brianna says he is going to therapy, so he's trying to be a better person, so he's trying, but I'm too sensitive to deal with someone playing with me. Yeah. And if he does get better at some point in the future and does his own work, who knows? Sophia says, hello, everyone. Hi, Sophia. Trinity says, what do you think about spirits being stuck from trauma? Dying young, etc. I've encountered a bunch. I'm not sure. What do you mean? What do I think? I mean, they exist, and trauma is one of the most common ways for a spirit to get stuck. But not just trauma. It's like regret, unfulfilled communication with a loved one, trying to make sure their body is found and isn't left there forever. Yet there are a number of reasons that a spirit can get stuck. Suicide can be one of them as well, because they're not moving on the way they're supposed to. Yeah. And not knowing that they're dead is a big one. It's a surprising number of people don't know that they're dead. And I have to inform them, I'm sorry, that you passed away and you're not amongst the living anymore. Usually they take it pretty well when I show them the light and they know where they can go, and then they're pretty happy about it. And fear of maybe being punished for what they did in life is another one that can happen. Kennedy says, what do you think? Oh, I did that one. Robert says, Siofra, if I must deal with 3 spiders almost right in my face in less than 3 to 4 hours, does it mean anything? The situations were unusual. It could mean that a dark goddess is trying to get in touch with you. You said, hello. Hi, you said. Virgo Flower says, I have a question. Much of my intuition for preparing a spell involves the decomposition and putrefaction of components, such as food. What are your thoughts on this magical approach? Whatever works for you. I mean, if it's part of the process.
Giving offerings are a common thing, and offerings are commonly food. Depending, of course, what or who or what being or whatever you're giving an offering to. If you're giving it to a specific being, like a Santeria deity or something, they may have a specific thing they want. Generally, there's a thing that, like leaving food for spirits, and it's done a lot with like altars and Hindu and stuff where they leave food.
Yes, and a lot of cultures actually, like in Indonesia and so forth, it's standard practice. They all have their own home altars and deities and so forth that are there. And before they eat a meal, they offer the meal to the gods of their household or what have you, and leave it there for a period of time. And then they eat the food with the assumption that whatever the gods needed from it, they got from it. And then they're not going to put it to waste.
Of course, in that case, they're not really letting it putrefy and
well,
such.
Obviously. Yeah. And the other thing, though, is like depending on what kind of thing you're doing, like the potato spell, for example, and when you're trying to get rid of something and bury it and put it in the ground and let it rot and go away.
Then you want that to happen.
And then you want that to happen, and certainly we've done that one in particular to just sort of let something go back to the earth. And I'm sure that there's lots of ways of doing that. So Pam says, Pam, hi, hope all are well. Hi, Pam. Brianna says, like that movie, The Others. Yeah, that's true. They did not know they were dead. But I knew that they were ghosts right from the start. I'm like, these guys are the ghosts. That's what's going on here. And I was right. Norse Code says, my father passed away alone and was found by one of the guys at his apartment building. It took years for him to come to my dreams. But my mother clearly knew right away and won't leave me the F alone. Robert says, starting tomorrow, I go to war with my own subconscious. I will really dig to the deepest. Well, don't think of it as a war.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a battle. What it is a series of understandings and treaties and compromises and like allowing and taking back in, because it's in that part of you that you have a lot of power that is unutilized because you're holding it at bay. And if you think of it like you're warring with your subconscious, then it's going to fight back. So I don't recommend that approach.
Yeah, it's better if you can get a cooperative thing and try to turn it around and flip it to a positive aspect, like...
Yeah, the things that are considered bad
can... your subconscious, like, this is good for both of us, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
If you can work, yeah. There is a certain tendency naturally in people for things to work opposite like that and oppose what you're trying to accomplish, and I get that a lot on my own, but I don't know that I really attribute that to my subconscious. I think more often it's because if you're trying to change something in yourself, for example, you've got all these built-in tendencies and habits and things, and maybe even thought forms and potentially even larvae that you've got to fight against anytime you're trying to change anything. So you just have to persist. Persistence is the most important thing. Try not to judge it as don't feel like enemy kind of thing.
Right.
Just be persistent.
I would recommend the cup transformation exercise that I have up there, because with that, the way it's set up is you're acknowledging something that you feel isn't working for you, like whether it's fear, anxiety, rage, whatever it might be, illness, and then you're acknowledging that it exists, you're taking it out of yourself and putting it into a cup, then you're changing it into something else that you need, like courage, acceptance, whatever it might be, and then taking that power back in. So by naming it, releasing it, and then transforming it and reclaiming it, you're not losing your power. You're actually gaining more of it back. And it really does help a lot with transforming all that stuff in your subconscious. I did that a lot in the beginning. I probably did that every day for quite a while because I had a lot of stuff to work through. Robert says, oh no, wait. Yeah, all right. Carla. Many years ago, my next door neighbor boy was murdered. We helped his mom and sister that night, but he visited my husband and I both at different times. He's since moved on. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad he's moved on, but I'm sorry he was murdered. Norse code says, and my mother and I were similar, as is my aunt and cousin, her sister and sister's daughter. We all dream of our deceased family and friends. So I'm not surprised my mother comes to me in my dreams. Robert says, food is, for me, a great spell-working system because of the senses I get triggered.
Yeah.
Norse code says, wow, that's so sad, but so wonderful you were able to help, but Carla. And then maybe I'll leave out my mom's favorite food and do a ritual on a new moon. Not a bad idea. Carla says, Norse, it was frigging horrendous, but we're glad we were here. It was the day after Christmas. Oh, goodness gracious. There's no really good day to get murdered, but
Yeah, okay.
still, that would be a very triggering holiday from that moment on. Norse code says, sometimes I wake up confused thinking my mom is still alive. Dreams are not to be taken lightly. Well, your brain doesn't really know the difference between dreaming and waking when it comes to how the body responds to that. So, yeah, definitely. So Robert says, so my subconscious has a voice of its own? Yes, and you can learn to hear it. And then you can override it when it's getting stupid, which it often does, giving you really bad ideas of things to try. Norse code says, my mom used to think my dad was haunting us when my son was still a baby and toddler because my son's toys would turn on randomly. She would tell him to go away, and it made me mad. My dad was nice. Well, as long as he wasn't, freaking out the kid. Trinity says, if there is a haunting, is it possible to be respectful and live with the spirit there? Yeah, it's potentially possible. I mean, I like to help them cross over so they can get on with business, the business of evolving as a spirit person, because while they're here, they're sort of in limbo, stuck, and they're not making certain kinds of progress. But if you don't know how to do that, or it doesn't seem to be the right time, or what have you, as long as you're not afraid of what they're doing and you have boundaries that you have set. Sometimes people make agreements with the spirits that they're living with. I lived in a haunted house in Saskatchewan, and we had a ghost that died from an overdose of a drug, because I saw him once and he was like a white guy with an afro, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's got to be what happened here. And all he did was walk back and forth. We could all hear him when he was walking the hallway upstairs, and he liked to turn the bathroom light on and off when you were going to the bathroom because he thought that was hysterical. And sometimes he would knock on the wall behind your head when you were sitting on the toilet. He just thought it was just funny. I'm pretty sure he didn't know he was dead. And, we just, okay, so that was his room. And we were a flop house at the time. So, there were 4 people living there, and we had 3 bedrooms. So 2 couples, and we each had 1 room, 1 bedroom each. And then the 3rd bedroom was the one that we put strangers in that came to visit. And pretty much guaranteed they didn't stay very long because most people don't like to live with a ghost. So, yeah. It's when people become afraid of them that the haunting turns bad. And I've seen that happen a number of times. And it's expectations from the living and anxiety and stuff like that. It seems to feed it into a phenomenon that turns into like a really not pleasant experience for people. North Coast says, my mom and dad were opposites in every way. Transform, transmute, claim it. Brianna says, the fairies pretended to be alien surgeons in a dream, and the dream got so ridiculous, and they were these little guinea pig-sized gremlin beings scuttling around laughing, and one bit me. Then mischievous laughter. I have some bratty little fae in my place. Yep. North Coast says, my son was never scared. He thought it was fun. Robert says, can't wait to Easter holidays? Oh, to eat the holidays? I get to eat tons of chocolate, eggs, and the yellow, which is super sugary. Oh, Easter. Okay, it is Easter. All right. I'm glad you like their candy. North Dakota says, that's a good question at Trinity. Brianna says, they had little raspy husky voices and I could feel them scuttling around on the bed, totally trolling me. It was funny. They like to prank me sometimes. North Code says, I'm living in my mother's house, so we need to live in harmony, even though in life we did not live in harmony. Well, that could complicate things in your dreams. That could be one of the reasons why she's showing up. Trinity says, I'd love to hear more stories about your life experiences, Siofra, and Ian too. Now, we have a whole bunch of videos out about a bunch of those experiences so you can explore. I have one playlist, I think, that's just called Siofra's Psychic Experiences or something like that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of them myself. I just have a couple I mentioned. But,
Yeah. I'm the one who was born this way, so I have tons. And I was a paranormal investigator, or still am, I guess. I just haven't done any in a while. So I've had a lot of experience with the other side. And people like me were sort of like a bridge between two worlds. It's one of the reasons I can channel. And that's important, being able to be a medium so that you can actually hear, and being an empath helps you to feel what's going on with them and gives you, the more information you have, the easier it is to deal with whatever it is their issues might be. So, and then again, always have good boundaries and don't allow them to just sort of wander in without permission. Robert says, where are you from, Norse Code? Shay says, hello all, happy Samhain, Halloween, and Day of the Dead. Hi, Shay. Robert says, too much harmony can become disharmony. Laugh out loud. Well, yeah, I guess.
Well, I don't know.
It depends.
Yeah, I don't think I'd say that. I might rephrase that a little bit different. I don't think I'd use the word harmony for there.
Yeah.
Not real harmony. Real harmony is a good thing always.
Yeah.
If it's real harmony, but things can look harmonious, sound harmonious,
And not be. Words. They're awkward.
Yep.
North Code says, the southern U.S., the Appalachians are in my backyard, literally. Robert says, cool. I live in cold Quebec. Robert says, the Appalachians, many mysteries. Brianna says, how should women handle being devalued by men because we don't look like supermodels? The dating scene is full of a lot of misogynistic men who are porn addicts, so they can't appreciate real women. Hold out for the right person and know your own worth. And if someone doesn't value you, leave them in the dirt. That's all I can say. North Code says, moon at Shay.
The problem is that it's a standard aspect of society. So, lift yourself out of it as much as you can and try not to let yourself be in those situations. And unfortunately, that seems to me how the majority of men are. But,
Unfortunate.
Just don't give in to it and hope you find somebody who's compatible with you, who doesn't have those attitudes.
Yeah, when Ian and I first got together, both of us had decided that we weren't going to be in a relationship with anybody. And, because every man I'd been with up until then had been a major a-hole one way or another, some dangerously so. And I figured, okay, if this is like some kind of universal rule here, that the only men I can meet or the only ones that are available are like this, then I'd rather be by myself, because at least by myself I'm in control and I can be happy. I don't have to have someone else to fill any hole in me, because I filled my own holes up, as it were. And that sounded weird when I said it out loud, but you know what I mean. I accidentally make puns and don't mean to at all. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I said. So there you go. So Nor said, indeed, many superstitions around here. Robert says, like Bigfoot or UFOs. Pokemon says, laughing sponge. I don't know what that is. Ghost eater? I don't know. What is that? North Code says, I love Quebec. When I was in my 20s, I wanted to move to Montreal. Pokemon Trans says, a whole bunch of images that I can't possibly comprehend. So yay.
There's a little heart, though.
There's some hearts in there, and there's there's a crying somebody and more hearts and clapping. Trinity says, got to finish cooking supper. All my love to Siofra, Ian, and everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, Trinity. Thank you for dropping in and asking some good questions. Robert says, I wanted to live in Florida myself. Pokemon says, hearts and clapping again. Sophia says, at Brianna, manifest the right healthy-minded men. Brianna says, yep, that's why I'm single, because I actually have self-esteem, and some men really try to make women insecure to keep power. Solid advice. Yeah, and that's just, this is the whole thing, like power over, power under, or power with. And the model that most people work with is the power over, power under model. So in order for someone to be in a relationship, someone has to be in control and someone has to be subservient. If you're in a power with model, like Ian and I are, it's like you're both equal. There's no kind of power dynamic fighting or positioning or whatever you call it. But it's hard to find someone who is okay with being power with, because the insecurities that people have, it's just huge. People have a lot of insecurities. I think the more controlling somebody is, the more insecurities they tend to have, because they're trying to like make up for it somehow, or make themselves believe that they have power by using external means to control other people, which isn't actually what real power is, in my opinion anyway. All right, so Norse code says, when you get up around where my dad's from, yeah, lots of odd things in the sky and woods, but I'm not a believer in Bigfoot. It's more about spirits where I'm from, Irish, German, native ancestry. Cool. Robert says, Siofra, are we living under Saturn's influence, a dominant influence? I think we are. I think right now Saturn has got, is Saturn still retrograde? It might be.
I don't know on that. I haven't
Yeah.
paid any attention.
The Saturn's my ruling planet because I'm a Capricorn, so I don't have a problem with it. Norse code says, my ex left me for a woman who was only 4 years older than his own daughter, 18 years younger than him. Ew. Okay, insecure, I think, yes. Brianna says, and the sad thing is, I actually can love others well, but I have to be protective of that love. But it's a shame because I could really love the crap out of the right man if he actually respected me. So I know I have a lot to offer. I'm sorry, Norse code, that stinks. Yes, it definitely stinks. Yeah, you watch these different kinds of relationship machinations and you just go like, what is going on with this people? I don't understand. But hey, that's the way it is. Robert says, Siofra, did you ever channel spirits that live on Saturn? No, I didn't channel those guys. I met them. Correction, I saw the heads of Saturn at a trial for my first husband, who was a serial rapist. And I was in the courtroom. They didn't let me in the courtroom for the first couple of days of the trial because I had to testify at one point. So they don't let you in until after you've testified, so you're not influenced, I guess, by other people's testimony. But when I did get in and I was sitting there and I was looking at the judge, I saw 3 giant heads floating above the judge's bench. And I knew immediately that they were the judges of Saturn, because I don't know how I knew that. I just knew that. So I don't think it's safe to channel the spirits of Saturn in particular, because they're somewhat harsh in their aspect. And I had a friend from Pluto and I had a friend from Jupiter, and they hung around me a lot and never channeled them either. But I had lots of encounters with both of them. So they were around for a number of years. And of course, Moida has been with me since I was little, but she's not like a planetary spirit of any kind. Teresa says that, Robert, I recently read that Saturn is dominant in our world because it rules matter as well. Our institutions are Saturnian.
Well, it's very true. I don't know that I would say dominant, but yes, it does rule those particular aspects. Saturn also rules the judgments, the judges of Saturn, like Siofra was mentioning. And Barton points out that visiting there is not advised, because if you get into that aspect, it has the dark, tells it the dark quality of a nightmare. The atmosphere and things, and the dealings of the beings of Saturn, and that what they do is generally not pleasant. Of course, there's also, as as lords of karma, so to speak. That includes good karma also, not just bad. But you have to watch out because you go visit beings of Saturn, you might end up with either one, or both. Who knows? But anyway, what that's worth.
Yep. Morse code says he wanted to marry me until he met a 21-year-old who was also love bombed by him. He wanted to marry her within 1 month or less of knowing her. He love bombed me too, but I didn't recognize it. Yeah, love bombing is a tricky thing that a lot of sociopaths like to do. I imagine a 42-year-old man would be enamored by a 21-year-old, made him not feel old or whatever other insecurity he had. All I know is I wasn't good enough, so he traded me for a younger version. And then added, respect Saturn. Yes, definitely respect Saturn. It's like, it's an interesting way of looking at the universe and our solar system and so forth. It's just like the different forces and aspects and things that are represented by the planets in our mythology and so forth. Barbara says, yes, Teresa, our institutions are controlled or influenced. That's by humans, though, not necessarily by Saturn.
And well, Saturn is part of that, all that, the actual control and putting in of rules and all that is kind of related. And most institutions have lots of rules and things. So
True.
in practice, though, it wouldn't need to be in practice. I think most of ours are, especially the government ones and things, just because of their general nature.
Bureaucracy.
Yep.
Whee! Horse code says, I feel you, Brianna. Bebby the Bard says, here live for the first time, excited. Hi, Bebby, welcome. Any questions, let us know. If you're a bard, I wish you could sing us a song, but I can't hear you, so I'm so sorry. I'm assuming that's why you are the Bard. Boy, my brain today.
Pardon me.
Yep.
Sorry.
Virgo Flower says, since last month I was smoking my pipe and listening to D.S. Ray. A very strong and detailed intuition arose in my mind to prepare a sword. Robert says, bard or burb? Says bard. Yes, indeed. Much love and happy late Samhain.
Do you get in trouble if you call somebody a bard brain? Wondering.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the
Sorry.
person.
If they think you're calling them a bird brain or not.
I have no clue.
Sorry.
Apparently he got bit by the pickle bug.
Oh, a little silliness never.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So yeah, we are going to do our amethyst crystal web thing though on Tuesday. Robert says, blob brain or bird? Now you're getting him into it too.
Yeah.
Back on track, people. We have a bard. He might sing about you. Or she. Because I don't know. Robert says, oh, by the way, Siofra, do vampires exist here or another dimension? Psychic vampires do indeed exist, and other vampires do not. Period.
Yeah, the blood-sucking type is just,
Myth.
yeah, it's true. I was going to use the word, you call it, put on,
Trope?
I don't know. It's a thing that some of them do, like
Well, there are the
actual,
lifestyle vampires who do drink and
yeah,
consume blood
that's
products. Yeah.
where there's not, they don't really need to, it's just
And they're
thought
definitely
cool.
not immortal, and they can go out in the sun if they want to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all those things aren't real. But
Assuming they
psychic
don't have-
vampires are
assuming
definitely
they don't
real.
have porphyria.
Well, you don't have to be a vampire to have porphyria. Porphyria is terrible.
Well, that might have been where some of this myths and stuff started.
That and
from.
werewolves, too. Because porphyria also causes hirsutism, which is like extreme hairiness.
Well, yeah.
And
anyway.
and they can't go out during the day, so you see a hairy guy in the woods under a full moon at night, you think werewolf. You see someone else, and they do like desire blood because they are lacking in iron.
Yeah.
And so there's
And then they burn in the sunlight.
and then they burn in the sunlight, so that could very well be the entire basis for the myth.
No.
Okay, so Carla says, I'm looking forward to that as always. Virgo says, the ritual gets built in my head day by day, but I'm suspicious what to do. The spirit presents itself like offering protection or assistance. What's your impression of this? Follow your instincts and don't do anything that you feel is not right. Period. Regardless of whether a spirit tells you to do it or not, you have to follow your own gut on that. And because spirits can ask you to do things that are not in your best interest, and they can present themselves as something that they are not.
Yeah, and you might, if something is presented, you might give yourself a day or two to think about it also, rather than doing anything in the moment.
Right. If you're pressured to do it, it's sort of
Yeah.
like a car salesman or any kind of salesman like that. If you get a hard sell tactic, it's usually best to walk away. But if they're willing to work with you and answer your questions, tell you who they are, give you the ins and outs of what's going on, and not pressure you to do something you don't feel comfortable with, then you're probably fine. I mean, I've met a lot of different kinds of spirits over the years, and not all of them have your best interest at heart. North Coast says, my favorite psychic vampire is in what they do in the shadows. Robert says, Siofra, I recently studied plasma being. Do they exist? Did you channel some? I've never heard of a plasma being, so I don't know. I don't channel anyone but Moida, by the way, so I guess the answer to that would be no, except for the time she was teaching a class on the other side, and I agreed to let different spirits inhabit my body to try it out to understand what the process was like. That was a one-off. It wasn't normal. Well, there was also the other guy from the other plane that's farther away than Moira, which was intense. But yeah, still in that same vein though. Robert says Norse and code, yeah. Carla says, I was distracted earlier, but what are we thinking of this comet? Seems a little different. Actually, I looked into it pretty well, and it may be a different kind of comet than we're used to seeing, but it really doesn't have anything different about it. That can't be easily explained by science. The forward jets that are shooting out is because there's different material on the face of the comet, and some of it dissolves quicker in the sun's rays in the cosmic radiation, or ions that are flying the solar wind, than others. And the stuff that dissolves first shoots backward, and the stuff that doesn't will often make like a geyser that shoots forward. And the fact that it's 33 billion tons pretty much clearly says it's not a ship of any kind, because no one in their right mind in any civilization whatsoever would make a ship that weighed that much. That would be all of the nickel of a planet and more in order to put it together. So it doesn't make any sense. It's definitely from somewhere else, and it may teach us a heck of a lot about the cosmos and some of the things that we've never encountered before, because we're where we are. But I don't think it's anything to concern ourselves with, really. Tajos. Hi everyone. I usually don't make the live because I'm usually working and watch your videos later. I'm here because yesterday we had to put our dear and beloved cat friend down. We have to decide what to do with her body, and even though it isn't likely, we are considering taxidermy because she was so special in spirit but also in body. I realize that is our decision, but I appreciate you and was wondering if you had thoughts or insights on this. I think saving a cat's body is pretty traditional. Egyptians did that all the time. And if that's what you're moved to do, I don't see any reason not to, as far as it goes. It's like they used mummification, we use taxidermy.
Of course, I think it's a little excessive to the head of your cat.
That's not quite the same thing.
I can't imagine how much that must have cost.
Right. That was so that they could get the DNA and clone the cat. So that's different, slightly. But, everyone's going to have to decide for themselves. And so Robert says, the next time I go to any court of justice, I will ask the judge first if they are controlled by Saturnian beings.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I wouldn't ask them that. They'd probably call in the men with the white coats, and as they say.
Which might get you off the charge. So.
Actually, true. It could get you off with a mental discharge of some kind. Tajo says, oh, yeah, I already answered that. Okay. So Valachi, oh,
Viola
Viola Ocean,
Nocturne.
oh, okay, Viola Nocturne, okay, however.
Singing violet, in other words.
All right. Will spirits say stay on Earth to help their family? I had dreams about my father where he's told me how he sees things clearly in black and white. Um, yes, they can, and there are some families that have dead family members that come back as guardians. Norse code says they'll love that. Stay out of the courts if you can. Ickle says, what was his name, if I may ask? The other being from a higher dimension than Moida. I'm trying to remember his name because it's been a while since I've contacted him. I'll have to think about it because it's not right on the top of my head because I haven't been doing that for a while. When it comes to me, though, I'll let you know. Robert says, indeed, haha. Norse code says, good question. At Violaccia Nocturne. Debbie the Bard says, you've mentioned undines, water spirits, before, and my question is, what do they look and feel like energetically? Well, it's sort of like mermaids. What the images of mermaids, that's what I see when they're around. And when I'm traveling in their realm, they come up to me in that form, mermaid, mermen, whatever. But there's other water spirits that I've met. I met a what do you call that? A water horse once in a dream state, and I really liked it. It was quite lovely. Was a marvelous creature. In fact, I think I did a collar on the water horse because I liked it that much. So I did a Celtic knotted collar with that. With that as my image and whatnot. And I've seen water dragons, of course, as well, which are also water spirits. In that case, just different kinds. So, but yeah, they look like mermaids. When I was a kid and they were teaching me how to swim, they looked both like mermaids and dolphins. They were trying to teach me how to swim by telling me how to swim like a dolphin. That was one of the methods that they used to help me understand. And so learning how to swim underwater was like the first goal was that part. And then once I got that down, and then learning how to float and be buoyant, and then being able to feel the water, because I could never learn how to swim the way they were teaching me. The people were teaching me. It was like, what? I don't understand. Thomas says, hi, I've seen the stream once in a while and have much respect. I tend to experience seeing black spots and purple at times. My guess as to help is not to worry too much and keep up with my meditation. Yeah, usually that is just different kinds of energy that you're seeing. So I wouldn't worry about it. Sometimes I see black sparks, sometimes I see white, blue, silver, different colors. So, and purple, blue. Last night I was seeing a white undulating thing in my head that was like getting bigger. Watching it for a while and then I fell asleep. So Tajo says, thank you. I was feeling judgment on this, so I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I mean, really, it's your business, and as long as everybody in the family agrees. Robert says, Siofra, how do I bring my higher self 100% into me? What I'm bringing into me is not my higher self. It's like beyond my higher self. So getting in touch with your higher self would be getting in touch with all your different past lives kind of thing. Getting more clear in this one is what's going to help you the most. Because every life that you're in, you have that opportunity to get clear. So if you can get clear in one life, that helps all your other ones as well. So think about the fact that whatever you're doing in this one is not just for you, but for all of yous, all of the yous that are spread out through time, past and future. Because in reality, there's no such thing as time. So you can actually affect the past by becoming clear in the present. And by affect the past, I don't mean change the sequence of events that happened, but you affect the effect they have on you. So you can transform what happened to you into something you can use versus something that's causing you this, pain and discomfort and trauma and so forth. And it's not necessarily easy to do, but it can be done. And the better you can do that, the easier things are in the life you're in. I always wanted to go and get myself buried in a cave for 3 days because I had another life that wanted that, but I never did find a cave. If I could go sit in the dark for 3 days and, commune with her. Oh well, some other life will have to do that one. Arla says, my mythological beast is a unicorn. One day I'll meet one. I saw one once. It was pretty awesome in a vision. Robert says, mine is Black Panther, eagles, spiders, dragons, reptilians, and gnomes. Cool. Teresa says, speaking of sparks, after the Moida session, she came to me and showered me with golden sparks. Cool. I like sparks. Brianna says, I see fractals and patterns and fairies as I'm falling asleep. Sophia says, do you know, is there a spell ritual to regrow a new tooth? I wish I knew one. I don't. Because I could grow a few teeth as I'm getting older. So I'm sorry. Is the contact to higher self is through a meditation? Becoming more aware and conscious of your environment and yourself? Yeah. Ajo says her cat daddy is supportive. Thank you. Good. So long as you two are on the same page, you're good to go. Morse Code says, I keep a particularly squishy pillow on my bed that my deceased cat loved to lay her head on. My mom and I both dreamed of her in the exact same way when my cat passed. Aw. Yeah, I actually had 2 different cats that I've had come back after they died and to interact with me to the point where I could feel them physically. And when I was younger, my first cat, Roscoe, after she passed, she was hit by a car and I wasn't there when she passed. My mother took her to the vet with my brother. And so she came back to the apartment where we lived. I saw her out of the corner of my eye one day and she ran across the floor and jumped up on my lap and just curled up in a ball like she always did. And I could feel her. I could feel her weight. It was really special. And she did that for quite a while. And then my other cat, Charlie, he's buried here next to the temple. And he came into my bedroom, which he wasn't allowed to do when he was alive, and jumped up on the bed and did his little feedy things and his purring and rolled into my back. And I thought for sure there was something on my bed, and I turned on the light and nothing to see. So then I figured who it was, and so that was pretty interesting. Robert says, yes, Sophia, I tried, and all I can do is to open my third eye. Higher self seems to be far, far away or super deep. Robert says, I no longer use the word die or death. I use the term new life. Sort of a transition for sure. North Code says, I felt her jump on my bed after she passed 4 years later. Not as much, but it happens from time to time. And isn't that wonderful when that happens? It really is. It's very special to be visited by a beloved animal that you knew in life and to know what it is. Sort of gives you some kind of I don't know, it's comforting. Carla says, Siofra, yep. Ajo says, thank you, Norse Code. I do invite her back if she would like to come. Siofra, I'm sorry that you didn't get to see your girl go, but glad that she came back. And also, way to go, Charlie, for snuggles. Yeah. We had stranger cats come in every so often. We had some cat in the neighborhood who died, who decided our house was a good fit, was running around our house knocking stuff over. And we were getting ready to blame our cats, and they were sound asleep on the couch in the living room, looking up at me like, what is going on? Why are you looking at us like that? Robert says, Norse Code, I sleep with a big black moonstone under my pillow. Nice. Norse Code says, my cat is my favorite haunting. Sophia says, I heard that there's a woman in Russia that regrew a tooth with some esoteric method, and also I found online that it can be done by frequency sounds. Well, that would be wonderful. Maybe you can tell us about it sometime. Robert says, wow, Sophia. North Code says, oh, as a Cancer, I'd love a black moonstone. I had no idea they exist. Oh, yeah. Moonstones come in every color you can imagine. Black and gray and blue, pink, silver, white. I mean, there's when I made my lunar stave, I got different colors of moonstones, all kinds of colors. And so that was kind of neat. And a black moonstone is really good to represent the new moon, I think. Robert says, wow, Sophia. Norse Code says, ooh, yes, I did that one. Yes, but in an online shop, they're hard to find. Wow, silver moonstone? I had no idea. Well, it looks silver to me. It's just that kind of pure white kind of thing. Norse Code says, I'll have to seek one out. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Of course, selenite is the original moonstone. So it's what they used to call moonstone is the selenite. North Code says silver is what I've always had. Sophia says moonstone are so expensive. The selenite's not. It doesn't come in as many colors though. Mostly just comes in that wonderful white, shiny, light refracting color. Barbara says mine cost only $22, but it's polished. Morse Code says I have a selenite wand. Yes, I have several. I love the selenite is really good for paranormal stuff because it puts out a light that's visible on the other side. So you can use it to like guide spirits, especially spirits that aren't human, out of a building and so forth to help them find the door if they don't know where the door is because it doesn't look the same on the other side for them. And I've used it a number of times for that. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Norse Code says Selene was a goddess, I think. Yes, a goddess of the moon. Which is why selenite was named after her.
Yep.
And why it was the original moonstone. But it's very fragile. Virgo Flower says the next day I woke up to a heron cawing and screaming for about 30 minutes. Since last year, worshiping Lilith has increased my connection with birds. I love birds. They're fun. Robert says, Selene, yes, she protects versus the bad matrix influences. Morse Code says, well, I'll be using my selenite on my mom for sure. Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Brianna says, Sophia says, and it's really hard to find a real one and not a fake one that claims to be the real deal. The moonstones. Yeah. Brianna says, moonstone is my favorite. Robert says, selenite is hard to beat. Norse Code says, no wonder I'm drawn to selenite as a Cancer. I'm drawn to it because I like it. Of course, I like a lot of stones, regardless of their astrology signs. Just like I like a lot of birds, too. Robert says, what I like about selenite is that its energy is always pure. Yeah, and it'll charge and cleanse everything around it. That's one of the nice things about it. If you have, because of that, they're making bowls, selenite bowls, that you can use to put your stones in to charge them up. And it'll increase whatever natural charge you've already put on it. And it makes it a lot simpler. You got chunks of selenite on your altar or wherever you keep your stones and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about, do they go in the sun? Do they go in the moon? Are they allowed in water? Can I bury them in earth? What can I do? Just does it by itself. Thomas says, I remember seeing a black and white spotted moonstone, a very interesting to look at. North Code says, truly, Robert. Robert says, Thomas, yes, it should be stunning. North Code says, I do place my other stones crystals on my selenite wand, which is rather flat than round. Yeah, I do that too. I've got a flat one, I've got a round one that I can use for body work. And selenite I found is really useful for if you've got like some kind of inflammation somewhere. So like I have like I have a gland here that likes to swell a lot and every so often it gets plugged up. And I can use that to like stroke it down. Or if I have something inflamed on my body, it helps to remove the inflammation. One thing I've definitely found it good for. So it's pretty cool stuff. Carla says, I have that, Thomas. They call it a rainbow moonstone. Ooh, yes. Robert says, I also know rainbow fluorite can transmute like crazy. And then there's watermelon tourmaline. Which is just cool. North Code says, selenite for inflammation. Nice. I love fluorite so much. Yeah, I like all my rocks. I have a lot of them. Carla says, have you guys seen those selenite plates that are laser engraved? They're so cool looking. Yeah, the plates and the bowls. You can put your stuff on them. Just remember that selenite is very soft. I think it's only a 2 on the Mohs hardness scale, whereas what we now use as moonstone, I think, is like an 8. Somewhere around there anyway. I'd have to look it up to be sure, but it's a much harder stone, so it's less prone to damage. And selenite is a very soft stone, so it's hard to get in bead form. You can buy them as beads, but you have to be very careful with them. So, Robert says, fluorite is easy to work with, love it. Morse code says, oh, I desire the watermelon tourmaline. For a year I've been drooling over them, but haven't gotten one yet. Yeah, I love how they're pink and green together. It's just sort of really cool. Robert says, I like also pink salt solidified to work with cleansing. That feels nice, the cool air coming in. I said it's nice, the cool air coming in. Robert says, aquamarine is awesome too. Yeah, I have aquamarine as one of the stones in my bath. Norse goes, aquamarine is yummy too. Yes, apparently they both said that at the same time. They came in one after another. I like it when everyone's on the same page. Means we're probably right? Yeah, I was pretty surprised when I read in a whole bunch of crystal books that they attributed aquamarine to air.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I mean, really.
Well, problem is when you get people that throw everything in a blender and then spit it back out, you know, they combine all these things and they don't have any intuition about what, you know, what it really is. It's really easy to just collect a bunch of facts and throw them all together, and you have to assume they're right if you don't have the intuition to tell you.
I think they were doing the color-coded thing. The aquamarine was more light blue, like the sky, than like water or something like that. But I mean, considering aqua is water and marine is water, so the stone's name is basically water. It
Yeah.
seems pretty clear that it's water.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of hard to get a feel for as far as, you know, that one's kind of obvious to me, but it is kind of hard to get a feel for some of the stuff on a physical basis. You know, what air, what does that mean on a physical basis?
Yeah, kyanite felt like air, refined air, like a different level of air, not just air element, but air like astral or mental air or something.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting.
And of course, the higher aspects of air are more difficult to. They're more subtle, so you have to be more alert and aware to catch them.
So Robert says, recently I'm having a hard time to work with amethyst. I know the stone gets me to contact my higher self. That's because amethyst helps you get in touch with the acacia, which could be why you're having trouble with it. Acacia is a more subtle energy than most energies, because it's like all time, all space, no time, no space. It's everywhere and in nowhere. Yeah. So keep at it. You'll probably get there.
Yeah, try to have purity of thought if you're working with anything related to the acacia, because you don't want to accidentally invest down things you don't really want. Like I've had passing thoughts occasionally manifest, or when I say something like, probably the next thing that'll happen is my air mattress will explode.
Oh, yeah. He has a tendency to manifest stuff instantaneously.
That I don't want a lot, most of the time.
And he said that while we were camping, laying on the air mattress. And as soon as he said it, I yelled, "No, don't!" And then it exploded.
Right then.
Right
I
then.
kid you not. It happened right then. It blew out, and the seams blew out, and it made this giant bubble.
Yep.
And I didn't do anything to cause it. I was just sitting there.
Oh, it was awful. And I kept getting thrown off the air mattress onto the ground because of the giant bubble. And the next morning we got up and I said, "We're going home."
So if you work with the acacia, you got to be careful to a certain extent if you're actually being effective at it. Make sure you don't get the wrong thing in there.
So Carla says, "Why air? Color? Never mind, you just said." North Code says, "I wear a silver cuff that has a full moon made of cow bone with topaz, peridot, and carnelian. Oh, that sounds lovely.
Nice.
Robert says violet stones are the highest, so it seems.
I
And
would say
wow.
so, vibrationally or whatever
Yeah.
term you want to use. Yeah.
That's the reason why we're using it for the amethyst crystal web, is
Yeah.
because of its akashic connection and so forth, and try to activate all the different amethysts on the planet to go up into the akasha and then fill that with the joy, peace, and tranquility so that it manifests back down to earth to help
Yeah, and if it's
our
manifesting,
situations.
if it's manifesting through the akasha, it can manifest everywhere at the same time.
Yeah.
All things.
Norse code says marine is specifically saltwater. Think marine animals versus freshwater. So aquamarine embodies both types of water on Earth. Cool. Norse code. I also love an ametrine. Yeah, that's amethyst and citrine combined. And she says ametrine. Yeah, I think the second spelling is the correct one. Virgo Flower says I have 2 moonstones that I used in a spell. I did an experiment and used them on my eyelids before going to sleep. Changed thoughts in a random pattern like traveling with winds. Cool. Norse code says I like that at Virgo Flowers. And Robert says Virgo Flowers, yes, moonstone works good. Yeah, and I have a crown I made that has kyanite and selenite on it. And I've got one piece of kyanite that lands straight on my third eye that I use from time to time. Robert says Siofra, in general, what are black stones used for other than protection? Absorbing negative energy,
yeah.
and draining it away, grounding it out. So, and grounding. You can use them for grounding stones. They're pretty good for that.
It can also, because if you're talking a black stone and because of its earthy aspect can be used practically anything, so it gives it sort of a universal character. Black and white stones both have sort of a universal character. I mean, they have certain tendencies according to what the stone is, but you can kind of use color-wise, they're kind of universal. I mean, obsidian has obvious qualities of glassiness, heaviness, and that, but
It's not very heavy, actually.
heavy as glass is.
Well, right.
Yeah.
But not like hematite, which is super
No.
heavy,
Right.
like weight-wise.
Yeah. So that would obviously make hematite a lot more earthy.
Right.
Of course, the
The iron
obsidian
content.
is obviously fiery too because it was formed from a volcano type of thing. So talking kind of a mix there. It's fiery and earthy.
I think just about a lot of stones were formed in volcanoes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Norse code says lots of kyanite where I'm from. Where are you from? Robert says Siofra, what about a stone that's half black, half white, like zebra jasper? Well, it would have both aspects simultaneously.
Yeah, I would take that. Well, yeah, you have to, Kabbalistic associations and things. That could be where you come in. Be black and white, be the two opposites.
The 2 pillars.
Yeah, Hakma, the second sphere, which is the wisdom of the opposites and how to use them and how to use polarity. That would also come aspects of sex magic and any type of polarity magic and volt magic and whole lot of aspects to that combination.
Plinko says TS tough. Hi, Plinko. Not sure what that means. But welcome. Yeah, I like the black kyanite. Black kyanite's really nice. And the blue kyanite and the green kyanite, I got some of each. There's a lot of stones come in different colors. I have red garnet and green garnet. And I love the green garnet. I think it's just fabulous. I think it's from Russia is where the green garnet comes from. It's a special type of garnet. And I have a raw one of both on my Venusian wand. So I have like a red garnet at one end and the green garnet at the other. So it's my only real 2-headed wand, as it were. 2-ended. Linka says, that doesn't make any sense. Norse code says green garnet? Wow. Robert says black kyanite is awesome and direct. It doesn't mess around. Eggerine also. I've not heard of eggerine, have you?
No, I'm not sure. Look here.
Robert says, yeah, I never heard of green garnet. It was really nice to find a raw one. They're naturally faceted, so it's like got all of its sides and stuff, and you can polish them a little bit if you want. But you don't want to put them in a tumbler because then they'll get all the edges taken off.
Fibrous green.
That is the agarine. Agarine.
Yep. Like,
Cool.
say much about it.
Looks like it'd be difficult to keep without breaking.
Yeah, it says it's green, but the one in the picture looks black. So black one.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they forgot to add the color. They just used the black and white picture.
Derived from Aegir, the name, Norse mythological figure of the sea.
Ooh,
Mineral was first described from.
sounds kind of cool. I don't think I've seen one of those in like our local rock shows or anything, or the rock shops
Looks
I've
like
been
it's
in.
mostly iron containing some silicon and oxygen and sodium.
I also use rarely black fluorite. Hmm.
A lot of these things you can only get a feel for, though, by getting a feel for them. I mean, you can get a general impression by looking at the qualities of the things and considering them, but
And
you
the
kind of have to
stories
get
about
a
'em.
feel for it. If you use your intuition and hold something in your hand and get a feel for it, and especially if it's in harmony with the qualities and factors you already know about, then it's probably right.
Robert says, well, maybe you should buy one, Siofra. Yeah, well, maybe. If I ever see one, I might. Or I might just admire it from afar. Mine cost about $30 6 years ago. Norse Code says, looking at a $33,000 green garnet ring right now. Whoa. That's a bit spendy. That's clearly not the quality I have. I don't mind. I mean, gem quality stuff, when you're using it as a stone to work with magically, doesn't have to be there at all. You still have the same quality regardless of the actual quality of the stone, and the same energetic qualities, I should say.
Right, right.
Robert says costed. Sorry. Robert says 33 grand? Not in my budget, says Norse Code. Thomas says scientific color opposites are very interesting. There are different kinds of opposites. I wonder how it coincides energetically. Robert says, Siofra, can I use amethyst to rewrite my own Akashic records? Well, no, because your Akashic records are a record of what you're doing and who you are. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you rewrite yourself, okay, then your records are rewritten. It's not like you can go in there and take out your book and then
you can't
edit out stuff and then put it in differently. That's not how that works.
I wanted to speak to, before we go too much farther, I wanted to speak to Thomas's thing there a moment. The Golden Dawn made good use of the color opposites, and they used them to make what's called flashing colors, like violet and orange. So the opposites on the color wheels, and they create a very interesting effect of flashing colors, which tends to energize things naturally without. It's kind of a way of doing a certain amount of charging automatically on its own, just by the colors and the flashing colors, before you put your whole energy into it.
And the
charge
Indian
stuff
tatwas
up,
are done that way too.
Yeah, so the opposites, if they're actually done in their flashing colors, they do have that. It's not just a scientific principle. They kind of tend to energize to a certain extent, and they're flashing on the other planes, so it's easier to see them clairvoyantly, also, is my understanding.
Norse Code says like red, green, garnet together, Thomas. Sophia says, what else there is in the Akashic? The Akashic is a plane of existence, not just the place where it has your quote-unquote records. All time and everything in existence is there. It's the thing that connects everything on all different levels. It's sort of where all existence, material existence started.
Yes, where
You
it all
know, it's
down
sort of
from.
like the potential for everything, you could say. So Akaja is infinite potential for manifesting anything and everything.
Imagine it contains everything as one way to visualize it, which isn't literally true, but imagine it contains everything in their opposite. So it contains everything and its opposite, so that overall it's not physically manifested because, once you manifest one thing, then the opposite manifests. So it contains all those opposites, but they're all unmanifest. It sort of cancels itself out, so to speak, and yet you can experience it and work with it. And on some level, it becomes a material substance, so you can work with it. You can breathe in the akaji. You can surround things with it. It's a complicated kind of thing.
And it not only does it contain all reality and everything that has happened, but it also contains the potential for things that may not have happened.
But yeah, all potential.
Yeah.
The potential for everything, which is kind of how it is substantial and insubstantial at the same time. It's insubstantial because everything that's in it is in like opposites, so they, you know, find two opposites, you get nothing. So it's kind of what the akaja is like, is that uniformness until one manifests down, and then yeah, it's something else that's hard to explain, but you can kind of get a feeling for it. This is another one of those things that you kind of go on feeling for a lot because it's
Intellectually speaking,
yeah,
it's very difficult to grasp. You can only grasp it
speaking about it
with
is
you.
probably to give somebody a perspective of it is by talking about opposites is one of the methods they use. Like it's infinitely full, and yet since it's non-manifested, it's also infinitely empty. But it's infinitely full because it contains all the unmanifested opposites, all the potential within itself. So it's usually talked about in terms of opposites like that. And Lao Tzu talking about the Tao, it's all kind of the same thing.
Robert says, really, Siofra? That explains why certain people were able to cure their cancer using amethyst. There is a special technique. Yeah. Sophia says, can a person can access to it and manifest with it help?
Yeah, potentially. It all depends on where a person is at. You might, to use another way of speaking, you might say that the Akaja is God or contains God or the divine spirit. Look at it that way, is in the Akaja, comes through the Akaja. Your conscience manifests out of the Akaja and changes the way you act. If you follow your conscience, you're getting closer to the Akaja. Following your conscience is a really good way to make yourself closer to the Akaja and not ignoring it. Um, yeah, this is just a huge subject.
Yeah. And that's one of the things with the amethyst crystal web thing that we do. We're trying to help people learn or feel how to rise up, because that's the whole point, is we go up through the different planes. So into the astral, from the physical plane to the astral plane to the mental plane and into the akaja, and then try to put the program that we want to be manifested into the akaja and then bring it back down with us into the mental plane, into the astral plane, and into the physical reality. And it takes longer for it to manifest in each plane the farther down you go. So you can put it into the akaja, but then it has to come out as an idea that someone suddenly is inspired to do. Usually, if you're talking about
down with feelings into
and
the
then that
plane.
manifests down to the energy and the wherewithal and the interest to create something, and then that makes something physical. So it everything we have in our house, our chair even, has started off as an idea way beyond just an idea. It started off as a unmanifested concept and then filtered down. And it also explains how often in our human existence you can have 3 or 4 people who've never met each other on different parts of the planet all come up with the same inspiration at the same time, because they're getting it from directly from the akasha, and it's like time for this to happen kind of thing. And it's just interesting, especially when they try to prove who thought of it first. And sometimes they can't, because it all happens at the same time and there's no connection. So Echo says, wow, that was a really good answer. Sophia says, is Akaja is the source? Yeah,
Yes.
that's one way of putting
The
it.
answer, it's not only is it the source, but it's manifest throughout everything that exists. So everything that exists is also connected through the Akaja, and some things more directly in others. Again, the use of the amethyst crystal for
Right.
purposes like that, for the connection of Akaja.
So Norse code says, in my younger years, I used to associate the Akashic records with our fingerprints and made art based on that. Our fingerprints palm is a literal record that could be played. Awesome, I love that idea. So guess what? It's an hour and a half. We've just gone through.
Well, thank you all
Hard
for
to
keeping
believe.
this interesting.
But this has been a great conversation. So anybody, I'll create the Zoom thing and put it up on our community page so that those who want to join the Amethyst Crystal Web Project can, and then you'll find out what time it's going to be. And also, I put up a notification from Teresa, who is looking to start maybe a support group of some kind, and provided everyone with her email that she gave me and asked me to do it. So if you're interested, you can contact her. Okay? So Violet says, lovely show, thanks. And North Code says, I was studying to be an artist in my 20s and I wanted to revive the Star Trek clothing. Then I saw it in a catalog. I was shocked someone else had the same idea, but you just explained why. Robert says, indeed. Okay, so Ian says, blessed be all. Thanks for your wonderful participation.
No, I didn't.
Articulation, I know.
Sorry.
I'm automatically correcting words as I
Oh,
go.
I hate repeating myself. I use that so much time. Thanks for all your wonderful participation. So gotta change it up.
All right, Carla says, awesome live. Love you all. See you Tuesday, guys. And Echo says,
Bye.
thank you, Shifa and Ian. Hope you have a great week.
Blessed be everyone.
Sophia says, thank you. Violet says, bye. Robert says, take care. Sophia says, support group for what? Magic people who feel that they need to have support, I guess. Ask, send her a text or a message through her email and ask. I don't know, because I'm not involved in making this happen.
Thank you for all those hearts.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for the time you share with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you guys. Talk to you later.